In today's video, we're checking out the latest lens from the folks at Yongnuo. This is their YN35mm F1.8S DA DSM WL. That's quite a mouthful. Anyway, this is a 35mm APS-C lens. So you're getting a 52mm field of view full frame equivalent if you're shooting with something like an FX30 or A6700. Now, all of the samples were shot using my Sony ZV-E1 over here with the APS-C crop mode. It automatically defaults to it, which is good. So you're going to get the APS-C field of view equivalent with all of these test shots. Before we get into this video, thank you to Yongnuo for sending this out. I really appreciate it. If you want to check it out, I'll link it down below. Let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. My name's Shane. We're going to talk a little bit about this APS-C lens here from the folks at Yongnuo. Now, I recently reviewed one of their micro 4/3 lenses and it was really impressive. And in terms of overall image quality out of this, I'm quite impressed considering it's as inexpensive as it is, coming in at only $135 on sale from $150. So even if you're paying $150, I think this is really good value. Now, this 35mm field of view is really handy for filmmaking purposes, portraits, or just general photography. A 52mm field of view full frame equivalent is just really versatile. They call it the Nifty 50. So this is a Nifty 50 for APS-C sensor cameras, and it performs really well. The overall image quality is nice and sharp, and the video autofocus performance is really solid. It's amazing what you can get for $150 at full price these days when it comes to autofocus lenses. If you're a YouTuber or a filmmaker on a budget looking for this particular focal length, I'd really recommend it. The optical construction on this is 10 elements in 9 groups, and it includes 1 aspherical element and 1 low dispersion or LD element, which is designed to minimize aberration and distortion. We get 7 aperture blades in here, and the aperture range goes from f1.8 at its most open, so letting in the most amount of light, all the way down to f16. Now, the build quality itself, while it's plastic, it feels really nice in the hand. We get a rear lens cap here. You can see the terminals on the back of the lens over here, and towards the back, we also get a USB-C port for updating the firmware. All you need to do is hook this up to a computer, drag and drop the firmware into the drive that pops up on your desktop, and you're good to go. So that's cool. Now, the focus ring on here feels very, not loose, but it's very easy to turn. It's fine for what it is, but yeah, it is definitely a bit of a looser focus ring experience than I'm used to. Now, when I took this out of the box, the first thing I noticed was, I was like, where's the lens hood? So I took off the cap here, which is included. It locks in nicely. And I was looking at the front. I was like, does this come off? And it does. So this is a 52mm front filter thread on the hood, but there's also the same on the lens. So if you plan on using a polarizer or ND or whatever the case may be, you can attach it directly to the lens here and save yourself some size as well, which is pretty great. And the cap here just goes straight back on. Another cool feature with this lens, and something I was surprised to see, was it's moisture and dust resistant, which is pretty great considering the price of this lens. Minimum focus on this lens is listed at 35 centimeters or 13.8 inches. If we're comparing the minimum focus of this lens up against the Sony, even though that's a much more expensive lens, the minimum focus on the Sony 35 F1.8 FE comes in at 0.22 meters. So you can make your mind up if you need this for close-up photography or video work. For that, it's probably not the first choice. Now let's talk about the wireless connectivity with this. So on the side of the lens here, we get a switch and a custom function button. Now, by default, this custom function button on the side is a focus hold button, which means you can pull focus with autofocus, hold the button in, it will keep focus in that spot. Then you can move the lens to somewhere else, release the button, and then the focus will resume. It's a really great way of getting nice cinematic footage. The switch on the side of this lens operates the wireless connectivity. So if you've got the optional controller for this, you can adjust settings like focus and aperture wirelessly directly to the lens. Now, I don't have that controller, but it's definitely a cool point of difference. Now, this lens is loaded with DSM stepping motors, so I wanted to test out the video autofocus performance. So this first test was with the speed and sensitivity both set to +4. As you can see, the autofocus is working, but it's just a little bit sluggish. I ran the same test again, but with the speed set to 7, and this is how it performed. As you can see now, we get much better autofocus performance, and it's keeping up a lot better. I did a couple of different product showcase tests. The first was just holding my phone up in front of my face without the product showcase mode on the Sony ZV-E1, and it worked without incident. I also used the product showcase feature, which means anything in front of your face will be in focus, and it had no problem pulling focus here as well. It was nice and snappy, and if you do this kind of stuff, this lens will work with it no problems. Now, while the Sony ZV-E1 isn't the most impressive photographic camera of all time, it doesn't have a mechanical shutter, but I don't really care about that kind of stuff, but everybody cares about all kinds of stuff these days. I took this out to the park and we shot a whole bunch of photos, just sort of casual, sort of point and click kind of stuff, and I was really impressed with some of the results. Not all of them, but some of them came up really nice. So let's take a look at a few that I really like to begin with. A couple of these are just looking off this really beautiful viewpoint in Upwey in Melbourne, Australia. It's a really beautiful location. The background blur, subject separation, and colors are really popping here. I'm a big fan of the end result. In terms of the background blur quality, the bokeh overall looks really nice, and you can be the judge for yourself with these samples. Now, if you're shooting towards a bright light source with this lens, you're definitely going to have some flaring, and it's a little unpredictable. Some of the shots, it looked kind of nice, and other shots, it looked kind of crazy. So you can be the judge from what you're looking at on screen, whether or not that bothers you. But in all other situations where the sun wasn't hitting the elements, I'm actually really impressed with what I was able to get out of it. Chromatic aberration is also really well controlled. There's a shot of a stream here, and I don't see anything in the way of blue or purple fringing. So I'm not going to say that this doesn't have any chroma. It really depends on the situation and if the sun's hitting the elements, but overall, I'm pretty impressed. Now, I stopped this lens down to see what kind of starburst or sunburst effect I was able to get, and I got mixed results. Now, you can be the judge again whether or not you like the look of this. It has, again, some of that sort of vintage character. As you can see from the focus breathing test here, what is this? Oh man, sorry about that. I didn't even see that there. I was tidying up. This lens offers minimal focus breathing, which is great for video shooters. And focus breathing is where the edge of frame will zoom in and out if you pull focus from minimum to infinity focus. And the great thing with this is it doesn't have much of that whatsoever. So yeah, this lens is distracting free if you plan on using the autofocus. Lastly, there's only a slight amount of vignetting with this lens, even wide open at f1.8, which was really good. You can see some slightly darkened corners in some of these photos, but others, I didn't even notice it. None of these have been corrected in post-production. It's just straight out of camera to the video. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm going to give you my final thoughts here on the Yongnuo 35mm f1.8 prime from someone who actually owns the 35mm f1.8 Sony lens. This is a really great lens considering the price. $150, you get autofocus that works for video and photos, and it gives you a really premium look as long as you're not shooting directly towards the sun, where it will suffer from some flaring and it's got some sort of funky sunstar effect going on. But otherwise, I think it's great if you're a studio shooter or someone wanting to get into YouTube where you want to save a few bucks and get a really professional look. This would make for an awesome choice. Just know this is the Nifty 50 equivalent, and photographers and video guys love having this particular focal length. You get nice background blur and subject separation, and while the focus ring has a pretty sort of loose feel to it, otherwise I think the build quality is pretty solid. Now, one thing I did really love about the user experience with this was the custom function button on the side. Being able to do a focus hold, then move the camera and release the button, have it refocus is really cool. And if you're a short filmmaker or you do you know, weddings or whatever, and you're looking for this particular focal length, it's a pretty solid choice. Because of that, you can get some really creative shots without going into full manual focus mode. But yeah, it's a cool little lens if you want to take a look. I'll link it down below. Thanks for watching. My name's Shane. I'll see you on the next one.